Hello, 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 everyone. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Just a casual ensemble for today. Lovely to see you all. Happy October. So excited about the beginning of the Extravaganza. I see some chat happening. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. So I take it you can hear me, so my sound isn't being spooky today. But hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be able to catch up with you today. It's been too long. Well, actually, if you were in the Zoom sewing circle, it's been since yesterday, but I'm still happy to see you today. It's been a while. Oh, hi, Belinda. It's been a while since we've had a YouTube catch up. So today, it's the first of the month, and we always do a Patreon release. So I love to do a little live catch up and just give you the ins and outs of the new pattern. So the pattern today, first, where do I even start? So first of all, let's start with the fact that we are doing a charm Halloween extravaganza, and it is 13 days of spooky, fabulous content. And it's not just going to be on Patreon, by the way. I saw some questions about that today. So we'll have some Patreon content, we'll have some YouTube content, Instagram. Everything will be on our blog, on the Charm Patterns blog. So if you want to follow along day by day and have kind of like a landing page to go to, check out the blog, but also on Instagram, I will be doing a post every day. So excited. We are kicking off the 13 days of Halloween, the extravaganza, with the October Patreon release, which is the waspy corset belt, which is what I'm wearing right now. Just a subtle look. I have to use this accessory. I'll put it down at some point, I promise. Little subtle accessory. This is a little waist cincher kind of corset belt. And it tells you in the instructions and in the video, you'll learn how to sew a corset from start to finish. So it's kind of like, it's a narrow little corset, but you will learn all the skills to make a full steel bone corset. So that's why I'm so excited about it. Do not put it down. I'm starting to feel awkward about the umbrella, everyone. The parasol. So obviously the look I did for the shoot, because this is our, I get very excited for Halloween every year, and I wanted to do a Haunted Mansion inspired look. So this is my tightrope walker look, and I had to do, the color scheme and the parasol, but I wanted to do like a pinup take on it, right? So that's why I did the little Barbie pony and bangs. And okay, put it down. Getting awkward now. And I hand painted this circle skirt. So that technique may be coming to you soon as part of the extravaganza. Okay, I'm putting it down. It's getting awkward. So where shall I start? I'm seeing lots of questions. Shoes. Oh my gosh, you guys want to talk about the shoes. I'm not wearing the shoes. So, okay, the shoes, if you don't know this portrait, it's a portrait in the Haunted Mansion, okay? So if you go to the Haunted Mansion, you go into the elevator and you go down, and there's this like optical illusion, like the room is stretching, right? And there are 4 portraits around the room, and one of them is a tightrope walker, and you see her wearing, point shoes, and she's on a tightrope, and then as it stretches, you see that there's an alligator beneath her about to eat her. So it's creepy, it's spooky. But so the shoes. At first, I started looking at point shoes, and I was like, well, I'll just wear point shoes just like she does. And then I just realized how awkward that would be, because I don't actually know how to walk or do anything on point. So, and also, you know how point shoes look like really long, like these long boats when you're just like standing and you're not on point. So I was like, okay, scratch that. And then I started looking into, ballet flats with laces that go up the calves. And then I found these shoes. They are like 6-inch platform heels from this brand called Pleaser. And if you know Pleaser, you know that they are a down market stripper, drag queen kind of brand, which I am not knocking it because they were like $30. But they were very, very high and surprisingly comfortable because of the platform. And then they had these like suede ballerina ties that went up the calf. But the problem was they wouldn't stay on my calf. So every cross that you see on the front of my leg was taped in place for the photo shoot. Thanks to Nati, who's here right now, and Candace, our stylist. So I will say those shoes are fabulous. They are budget friendly. I also don't know how you're supposed to keep the ties to stay on your legs in that way, other than having someone tape them on you and standing completely still for a shot. So Haunted Mansion is a movie. I haven't seen the movie actually. But yeah, it's also first was an attraction. And guys, if you have Disney Plus, you should watch, there's a new series, or new to me anyway, called, it's called like Behind the Attractions or something like that. And there's an entire episode about the Haunted Mansion and how it was conceived. And it's a really interesting one because Walt Disney, you know, he had a vision to make this Haunted Mansion from the beginning of Disneyland in 1955 or whatever it was. He always wanted to have a Haunted Mansion, but he didn't really have a vision for what the attraction would be. Like, would it be funny? Would it be scary? All he knew was there should be this fabulous mansion. And the you know, some of the Imagineers first sketched it for him, and it looked very like too scary on the outside. And he said, oh no, we are not having, like, everything in Disneyland is pristine looking, right? So he's like, from the outside, it should look like this pristine mansion. And then on the inside is where it's haunted. But sadly, Walt Disney died before the attraction came to life. And so it was in limbo for a long time. And there were two head Imagineers on the project. And one of them wanted to take it in a funny direction, and one of them wanted to take it in a horror direction. And in the end, they kind of compromised, and it's a little bit of both. But it's iconic. It's one of my favorite things to do at Disneyland. And that's a really good episode. So if you're interested in the history behind Disneyland, you should definitely watch that one. It's at both. Yeah, it's at all the Disney parks. Tokyo, Paris, everyone has one. So I know a ton. I know. I was actually just like super impressed with myself as I was like rattling off all that information. I watched it like just last week. Okay, so where was I? I saw a lot of questions, and then I got into Haunted Mansion history, and I got distracted. Okay, so the portrait of the tightrope walker. She's wearing like a fur fabulous thing. And I thought, like, how can I sort of whittle this down into a pinup inspiration? And also, you know, I love taking inspirations like that and maybe not being super literal about it, but just saying, like, here's the silhouette and how can we get the silhouette, and what should be literal and what doesn't need to be literal. Like, I really felt like the painted flowers on the skirt needed to be very literal. So that was like very important to me that I recreate that. But then with the blouse, oh my gosh, so many of you have been asking about this blouse today, and I'm very pleased because this is actually the Bryant gown, and there's a hip length line. There's a length adjustment line on the Bryant gown, and you can just chop it off at the hip and make it into a top. And even better, I used this very stretchy satin fabric from B&J, and I didn't put a zipper in it because it's like super stretchy. It has a high Lycra content. So yeah, that's what this is. And you don't have to do a zipper, and just cut it off right at the hip and hem it. And that's it. Same as the Bryant gown. I see a lot of you, unofficial crowdcast lecture. I see a lot of you asking about the difference between my Butterick corset and this corset. So I'm happy to talk about that. I wish I had my Butterick corset handy, but I don't. But I actually, Nati, can I ask you a big favor?
Yes, of course.
I think my Butterick corset is in the bin o' bras. It's the like mesh one. If you can't find it, that's fine, but it would be really nice to have to illustrate. Okay, Nati's on the case. So they are totally different. I don't reuse patterns in that way. So just so you guys know, I wouldn't like take something that I did for Butterick and just like repurpose it for Patreon. We do everything from scratch. And what I can tell you is that this one is more like a traditional corset in the way that it is sewn and drafted. It has, so let me show you. Here's the blue one. This is the one I made on video. Oops, got a little thread on it. So it has 7 panels. So center front is 1, going all the way around to center back, which is number 7. Sorry, I didn't have time to like make these look pretty. So let me tell you about the features of this one, and then I'll tell you about the Butterick one so you can understand the differences. Okay, so the Patreon Waspy corset has an outer fashion fabric layer, which I did in Shantung for all of my versions, with a fusible interfacing applied to the back for stability. And then on the inside, the lining is corset coutil. So very, very strong. That provides the stability. There is also an internal twill tape, a strong twill tape to cinch the waist. And what else can I tell you? Oh, steel boning throughout all the way around, and then flat steel bones at center front and center back. That's optional, and I get into that in the video and in the written instructions. Waspy corset has grommets up center back. No front busk, right? Because we want it to be very flat in the front. So you just have to make the laces long enough so that you can open them up enough to squeeze in this way. Are you finding it, Nati? Yeah, I have a feeling it's not in there the more I think about it. Thank you for looking. That's okay. Pull up a tab in your browser, everyone, so you can see it. I'll explain the difference between the two. Okay, so where was I? Grommets up the back, lacing. You can do ribbon, or you can do corset lacing like this one has. Binding at the top and bottom. And someone said, thank you for looking, Nati. And this one has a very cinched shape at the sides. Do you see that side seam shape right there? That was something I was really trying to get at with this corset, was to give it, it's very comfortable to wear because it doesn't, it's not like a high reduction corset. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a second. It's not like a tight laced corset. You can make it that way if you want to, but the way I drafted it was intended to only have, well, let's get into ease in just a minute. It doesn't have a lot of negative ease, but it does give you a cinched shape because it has some negative ease and it has this very cinched shape at the side seam. Okay, so see that, and there are 2 steel bones at the side seam. So that is this Waspy corset. Let's talk a little bit about ease and negative ease and reduction and what that means in corsetry. So we always talk about finished garment measurements, right? For any of our charm patterns, Patreon patterns, we give you the finished garment measurements. With most garments, the finished garment measurements are going to be bigger than your body, right? Because you put them on and then you have a little bit of wearing ease. With some garments, things like the Jane set, Esther swimsuit, things that are made in knits, you might have some negative ease because it's meant to be very tight, very snug, and conform to the body. And that's what you want in things like a swimsuit, something like that, right? You want it to be smaller than your body. And then corsets are another example of negative ease because you make them smaller than your body and then cinch them in to lace up in the back. Right. And you can leave, you can talk a lot about the lacing gap in the back of your corset, right? So how much of my dress underneath you can see between the 2 center back panels on the corset. That's the gap that I'm wearing, right? And I think mine is like keeping it a little comfy for this live stream. So it's at least an inch back there, right? So the way the Waspy was drafted, say it's a size 6, which is what I'm wearing. It was drafted for someone who has a 28-inch waist. And then the finished corset is 20. Oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting. I'm so glad you're here, Nati. Would you look up the finished measurements for the Waspy on Patreon? Yes. Just look at the instructions. We changed it at one point. I think that it has. Okay, I think the finished garment measurements for the size 6 are 26 inches. Okay, so Nati's checking. So a corset is always going to be smaller than your body, right? And it's just how much smaller do you want it to be? If you're a tight lacer, you might want it to be, 6 inches smaller, and you're really going to, and especially if you wear like a more extreme corset. But a lot of, tight lacers wear a shorter corset for day-to-day wear. And then you're going to try to achieve something like 4 to 6 inches of reduction. Waist reduction is what it's called. 26. Thank you. Confirmed. Okay, so our waspy, as you can tell, only 2 inches smaller than the waist measurement. So 2 inches is not a lot of reduction, because I wanted this to be thought of more of like an accessory, a belt. It's not for extreme tight lacing. And also there are different ways that you can wear it, right? So you can, if you want it to be a little more cinched, you can wear it with no gap in the back for 26 inches finished. If you just want an inch of reduction, just lace it a little bit snugly and then wear an inch in the back, and then it's down to 27 inches, right? So, or you can have 2 inches in the back and have 0 ease, right? That's something you could do, especially like after you eat for the day or whatever. You want a little more breathing room. So you have options with this one. And I want this to be sort of like an entree into corset making, corset wearing. I don't want, to scare anyone away thinking that this is a tight lacing corset. That's not what it is. It's more an accessory. Okay. So, oh my gosh, I just went on at length, but I was imagining it being an accessory to a costume like the one I'm wearing, or think like Mary Poppins, something like that, Princess Aurora and Sleeping Beauty. I mean, there's a lot you could do with it. You could also wear it over a 50s style dress, like fit and flare dress, as an accessory to get a very defined shape at the waist. You could also wear it under your dress, if you wanted to just get a little more of a cinch and wear it as a foundation garment. So there's a lot you can do with it. I got the idea for this project, by the way, a couple years ago. I went to Dapper Day at Disneyland. I went to I went to Disney World. And I made a night and day dress, and I wanted to do a sort of Mary Poppins inspired thing, just sort of like the silhouettes. None of the colors or actual like look it wasn't like a Disney bound. It was just sort of like, I want to like be inspired by one of her dresses. And so I did a night and day dress with a square collar and the yoke skirt. And I was like, this would be perfect with like just a little narrow corset over it. So I ended up making just a single layer corset to go with it just for that day. And I really love the look. And a lot of you responded really well to it. So I was like, you know what? I got to make this a pattern someday. So that's where this one came from. Okay. Let's talk about the butterick pattern that I did, because I did do a little underbust corset for butterick. Now, that one is totally different. That one was intended to be more like a foundation garment, only to be worn under dresses or skirts to give more of a cinched look. The biggest difference, though, is that one has stretch panels. So I was inspired by some more like modern hybrid corsets that had panels of power mesh to make it a little more wearable and comfortable for more of a tight laced look. Now, the thing about butterick is, I love butterick, but they do add a lot of ease to things. So I think they actually had positive ease in that corset when it came out, which is not the way it was intended to be drafted. So I was excited to take my own stab at a waspy and really, you guys know I'm a control freak, but be super regimented about the amount of negative ease in each size. Speaking of negative ease, the other thing I wanted to say is that you can go up or down a size. Like if you want, like, you don't want any negative ease, that, and you want it to be all the way closed in the back, you would go up one size, right? So let's say I had a 28-inch waist. Normally I would wear a size 6, like we just discussed. But if I want my garment to be 28 inches finished, I would go up to the size 8. Okay, so you can do that. Conversely, if you want it to be a tighter cinch, go down to the size 4. Totally up to you. Okay. Any more questions? Will synthetic whalebone work? I've only ever used Ridgeline. I don't know if that's similar to synthetic whalebone, but I and also plastic boning, I would steer you away from those. I don't know if that's different from what you're saying synthetic whalebone is, but I would really recommend getting spiral steel if you can, just because it doesn't crease in the same way that Ridgeline and plastic boning can tend to. And it has more movement to it. So it's actually quite comfortable. But that's just my feeling. But I mean, people make corsets all the time with synthetic boning. So if you want to try it, go for it. It's just not what I would do personally. Also, people use zip ties sometimes as the bones in a pinch. So, but that to me is more like a plastic bone. All right. Any more questions? Unofficial crowdcast. All right. Any questions, comments, questions? I'm trying to think what else I can tell you about the shoot. Oh, I can show you my corsets. That's what I can do. Okay, so this blue silk one is the one that I made on the video. So every month for Crowdcast, you also get a full-length video showing you how to make the project start to finish. And I was really excited about this video because it's really fun watching a corset come together. Each of the panels being sewn, the ribbon being inserted, how the bones go in. It's a really cool thing to watch. So I do hope, even if you're kind of on the fence about if you're going to wear this yourself, the skills are so good to have, knowing how to work with steel boning, knowing the difference between flat boning and spiral steel boning, knowing what materials are typically used for corsets, how you stabilize a fashion fabric for corset making, how you insert grommets. There's so much, everyone. So this is the one I made on camera. And all the silks I used are from Silk Baron. I don't know if you guys have used that site, but I really love their colors, and they make these beautiful dupiones, and that's what I use for all of these. So this is a beautiful pale blue. And then here's the one I made for Gigi, which I see someone asking about right now. So Gigi she did a pirate look because I wanted to have 2 different attractions, right? So we had Haunted Mansion and then Pirates of the Caribbean. So more Disney history for you. If you remember going on Pirates of the Caribbean, perhaps as a child, as I did, you may remember that there was a little bit of human trafficking going on. This was like a main plot point in the ride. Interesting fun fact, I think a lot of people don't know, maybe some people don't know, about Pirates of the Caribbean, was that the ride came first, right? And then the movies came later. Usually, the movie comes first, and then they make a ride from it. But no, Pirates of the Caribbean have been around forever. I went on it when I was a kid in the 80s. And so there's a little, there's a scene where they're like selling women, as you do as a pirate. And I said Caribbean properly. So there's a very voluptuous redhead being sold, and all the pirates want to buy the redhead because she's got a banging bod. And it's always been a point of contention with this ride, like how does this look to children, that we're just like trafficking these women. And so recently, it wasn't that long ago, guys, it was like within the past couple of years, they finally made a change where they turned the redhead into a pirate character. And so she is now named Red the Pirate. And if you Google Red the Pirate, Red with 2 Ds, you will see that she wears this really cool like pinks and reds ensemble with a pirate hat. And Gigi so the reason we decided on a pirate look for Gigi was that she was our model for the Mariner top. And when she first came to try on the muslin of the Mariner top with the like blouson sort of sleeve, she tried it on and she said, "Oh, it's like a pirate top." And she was like so delighted by that idea that when we were thinking about Halloween, it naturally came up that maybe she should actually be a pirate. And because we already had a Mariner top made for her in white, we knew we could take off the sailor collar and turn it into the basis for her costume. I mean, obviously, the blouse needed to kind of like fade into the background because it was all about the corset. So we made her a pink silk circle skirt and then this red waspy. So hers has the lacing up the back and the 7 panels, just like mine does. But I wanted to do something to make it like extra piratey. I was like, why don't we have not only the lacing up the back, but let's have a panel of decorative lacing up the front. And there may be some tips and tricks on how to do this to not just a corset, but to any garment that you own. If you want to do a decorative lacing panel, I will perhaps be showing you how to do that in the coming days. Let's see. So I saw someone had a question about hers. Did I do any lengthening on Gigi's version? Also, can you describe how you added the extra decorative lacing on there? I did not do any lengthening on hers. I made her size as I normally would, and the length was perfect for her, top to bottom. It actually fit her really well. She looked amazing in it. And we got her this great pirate hat from Etsy. That's one of my favorite parts of my job is when I'd be like, we need a pirate hat. So let me just see what's on Etsy, who hand makes pirate hats. And we found this really cool one with a feather that had red ribbon on it to match this. And so you'll be seeing more photos of Gigi on Instagram soon. But yeah, no changes to the corset length or fit for her. And let's see, I saw another question. Is it possible to lengthen the corset for us that has a post-mom belly, etc., so it's not a big bump right under the corset? Yeah, you can definitely lengthen the corset from the bottom down, right? So you could, let me just stand up for a minute here. The corset is only 2 inches from the waist down, and it dips down just a little bit at front. So you could lengthen it from here and then curve it up a little bit. I would be cautious of making it too long on the sides because that would make it really hard for mobility. So, but you could just lengthen the panels down on the bottom. And then anytime you do changes to a corset pattern, you definitely want to do a mock-up to test the fit and adjust the seams if needed. And I wanted to show you too, speaking of this, I thought it'd be cool to show you the first mock-up that we did of the corset. So this was our muslin. I had some of this leftover blue silk. It's actually a beautiful color. And this is the very first version. White coutil, but Melisha did the sewing on this. And she did a beautiful job, obviously. But here's how you make a corset mock-up. You pretty much have to do every step except for the binding, really. See, we didn't do any binding on top or bottom. And then you don't necessarily need to set the grommets. What we did was just use an awl to punch holes there so you can lace through it. But you do need to put all the bones in there. Oh, and this is just like we did practice grommets right here before we did grommets on the main versions. But yeah, you kind of have to do the whole thing and then you would try it on. And what you want to be looking for is, do you need to flare out more at the bottom? Like if you have bigger hips, like say you lengthen it, you might need to flare it out more. You don't really know until you test it. The other thing you might want to try is like making it more cinched at the waist. You could do that. You can adjust the side seams, but all of that, like you kind of have to, try it on and adjust as you go. Now, there are some tips from Corset Makers where you can just tape the bones in for a mock-up and see if you can get there, just using like masking tape or something like that. Because if you're making a lot of changes, obviously, making several muslins with full sets of steel boning is going to be very time consuming. Let's see. I saw some question. Okay, so what would be a suitable fabric replacement if we can't find the interior fabric? Yeah, so I did talk about that in the instructions and also in the video, because coutil is a specialty corset fabric, and this is just a plain white coutil, but this Gigi's corset has a beautiful floral pattern coutil. This one is beige with a floral pattern. Coutil is like specifically for corsets. It's very expensive. You don't need a lot of it. That's the one plus side. Half a yard will definitely do you, but it can be a little difficult to source if you don't have an online corset supply shop near you. And it's expensive. I've said that like 3 times. It can be a little expensive. So you can use, in place of coutil, you can use a heavy cotton twill, cotton canvas, or cotton duck. Okay, so you're looking for something that's extremely tightly woven and on the heavy, stiff side. All right, so those would be my 3 recommendations: heavy canvas, heavy twill, or heavy cotton duck. And you could, if you found any of those that were a blend like poly cotton, that would be fine. Oh, okay. Any more questions? I'm trying to think what else I have to tell you guys. So as I mentioned, this is just the first of 13 days. So tomorrow you're going to get a whole new project. Moxie says, is it possible to do with a light coutil, or is the heavy one the best even for this accessory? I've not seen it IRL. Well, the thing is, heavy is generally better for corsets. You're trying to retain the structure, right? So you don't want anything. So let's say you lace it down to 2 inches smaller than your waist. If it's something that is not heavy and stable, it's just going to stretch to adapt. And then the next time you put on your corset, you'll say, oh, this is weird. My corset is closed all the way, but I'm not getting any cinch, right? So, and then you'll have spent all that time making your corset and it's not fitting the way you want. So that's the reason for using something heavy on the inside, is that you want this to be so strong and stretch proof that you're not going to have any surprises after the first wearing of it. That's the reason for the twill on the inside too, by the way. So let me see if I can show you. Oh, so on this one, we didn't have our good corset twill tape yet, but you can see between the layers, there is a black twill tape. Again, I would find the heaviest twill tape you can find. 3/4 of an inch is good. And it goes in between the layers at the waistline. And I show you on the video how to actually shrink it and stretch it out first so that it doesn't stretch after you wear it, right? And then you put it between the layers so that it stabilizes the waistline and your corset doesn't stretch out with wear. Yeah, corset materials are can be a little bit challenging to find. I know people always tell me, like, I don't have a corset supply shop near me, and like I definitely don't either. And I order all of this stuff online. And if you're in the US, I can really recommend corsetsupplies.com. They have everything, and I linked them in the instructions pretty much for every product I use. And they are great. They're based out of Philadelphia. The last time I ordered from them, their shipping was a little bit slower, but in the past, they will ship, like, I've found them to ship within like the hour of placing an order, and then I usually get my order like the next day. So they're very fast. And let's see. Oh, I see you guys are all giving recommendations for where to buy corset supplies. That's great. Are these projects and videos all on your Patreon? Yes. So the this project, the Waspy corset belt, and the video is on Patreon. So if you join at the $7 level or above, you get the pattern and you get the video. You also get access to everything we've done in every monthly project we've done in the past. So it's our most budget-friendly option for patterns, actually. And then we do a new pattern on the first of every month. Now, back to the extravaganza, the content we're doing every day is not going to be exclusively on Patreon. Like tomorrow, you will get a project on the Charm Patterns blog, for instance. We're also doing some projects on and just video content on Instagram, on YouTube, etc. So just make sure that you follow my Instagram or the blog so you don't miss a day. Leandro says, is it possible to make a 3-layered corset in case I choose a delicate and thin fabric? Yeah, for sure. You could underline your outer fabric. So I don't know how delicate you're talking, but let's say you wanted, let's go as delicate as I can imagine. Let's say you want to do something like an organza corset. What you would do is underline the organza. You would want to hide the inner workings of the corset anyway, right? So you would do an underlining layer. So let's say I had organza and then I had like a satin that I liked how it looked underneath there. You could underline them. So put those two together, base them around together at the outside edges, and then treat them as one layer. So that's essentially your outer layer now, right? So that's one way you could do it. The other thing you can do is what I did on these, because silk dubioni isn't actually that strong of a fabric. It's beautiful, but it tends to, it's like a little more loosely woven. So what I recommend in the pattern instructions is that you use fusible interfacing on your outer layers. So, but that's in the case of something that's opaque, right? You can't see the interfacing through there. So in this case, these do essentially have 3 layers, right? Because you have the dubioni, you have the fusible interfacing, and then you have the coutil. So I hope that helps. Farthingales is, oh my gosh, Farthingales. I've never ordered from them, but they have the most gorgeous coutil in stock. It's roses. It's like black with purple roses. I showed it to Melisha. She's like probably buying it right now. Hello, everyone. I'm killing you with this extravaganza. I mean, I'm very excited. I will tell you, we got a little carried away. Nati's laughing. Because initially it was going to be what, like 3 days, Nati? We're like 3 days. Yeah, we had like 3 things. We're like, well, we both get really excited about Halloween. So, you know, we just kind of like, we're like, well, it only comes once a year. So let's just add this thing. And then let's add this thing. And then we were kind of like looking at it and thinking like, how are we going to release all this content in a way that makes sense? And then I said, well, why don't we do like, you know, the spooky 6 or something, 6 days of Halloween. And then as we started to look at it, we're like, well, we can't do anything less than 13, obviously. So it went from being 1 project to being 6 to being 13 projects. And another disclaimer, they're not all like full projects. Some of them are like little videos, little tips, stuff like that. But we have 13 days of like new content every day. And we're still making some of it. So it's been, I don't know. I don't regret it. Do you have regrets, Nati?
Not that we didn't do more.
31. How many days are in October? 31?
70.
72 days of Halloween. The problem is that now we're working on the November Patreon project and we're shooting that next week. And it's actually kind of taken on a costumey vibe to it too, because we're still in Halloween mode here and I'm not ready to be done. So November is kind of like Halloween as well. We've decided to extend it to Christmas this year. They said, how are we not burned out? We're just like fueled by Diet Coke and orange spooky Oreos. But yeah, it's been really fun. And I've gotten into wig making. I feel like I can't actually show any of my wigs because it gives away the projects, right? Yeah, she said no. But so for a couple of the looks, I needed wigs. And so I found some really cool wig makers and ordered a couple wigs. And then I started watching wig tutorials on Instagram, or not on Instagram, on YouTube. So obsessed with this site, Bobby Pins, has amazing wig tutorials. Online Kind, my other favorite wig person, who was on Drag Race Canada, by the way. And then, of course, James Mansfield. Oh my gosh, she was on Drag Race many seasons back. She was like first out. Sorry, spoiler alert. And now she has this amazing wig channel where she just talks about like fashion history and, drag history. And she's just this wealth of knowledge. And I was like, how hard can this be? And I just started ordering wig supplies. And now wig styling is 100% my new hobby. And it's all I want to do. So once I'm done with like whatever work I do for the day, like then I reward myself with like an hour of wig styling. So get ready to see some very amateurly styled wigs in your future. But it's been really fun. Wigs by Vanity. Yes, I checked out their website too. Very tempted by a lot of their wigs, but it's really fun. It's like having like a full size. I got like a head with a stand, so it's like having a full size Barbie to play with. So maybe on a live stream coming up, once I can show you some of my work, we can talk about wigs and wig styling because it's really fun. But this piece that I'm wearing, so this is a hair piece. And this was made by Stevie Rosalie, who also does beautiful hair pieces. And she does full wigs too, but I have mostly bought hair pieces like braids and stuff from her. She makes really beautiful stuff. Doesn't James Mansfield also make puppets? Yes. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. She's incredible. Let's see. I see some more questions. Micah style wigs. Let's see. Any corset makers or info that you'd point us towards that want to learn more after we've done the Waspy? That's a really good question. And maybe you guys can answer that in the chat. I can't think off the top of my head of any pattern makers, but I know there are a ton out there. So speak in the comments. I know that there's some really cool corset pattern designers on Etsy and stuff like that. I know there was one that had a Patreon for a while. So guys, if you know, please share with us in the chat. Here we go. Yeah, Red Threaded Ones does historical corsets and patterns. I know there are many on Etsy, like Caroline, I think. Are we learning hair bows? Oh my gosh. Are you jealous of my hair bow? So this is just a little like hand-dyed ribbon that I had in my stash. And on the day of, I was thought, no, I think this look needs a little hair bow. So it's really just some ribbon tied into a bow and then has a bobby pin sticking it in there. But corset making, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. And actually, everything I've learned about corset making, I learned from LiveJournal. Oh my, is that like a blast from the past? But there's a corset making community on LiveJournal, and they pretty much know everything. And they can be a little scary sometimes. There's a little bit of a historical purism going on there. So I tried to like take what I could learn from reading those posts. Laughing Moon, that's a good one. Historical corset patterns. But yeah, everything I learned about like, here's how to make a quick mock-up, masking tape with your bones inside your mock-up. I learned from LiveJournal. So check that out. A real throwback, I know. Go back to 2001 and check out LiveJournal. How are the kids learning corset making these days? I don't know. Let's see. Bone and Busk in Toronto. Oh, I like that name. LiveJournal still exists. That's how you know you're old, when you still remember LiveJournal. Guys, I'm young and hip. Stop. I feel like it's actually still up there, though. I feel like the community is still up there. How will the 13 days work? Is it every day from now or every other day? It's every day from now. So today is day 1, tomorrow's day 2, and so on until October 13th. And then we just keep posting Halloween content after that too, as well, I'm sure. So, but yeah, it's starting today. And to follow it, I am also young and hip. Live Journal is still there. So to follow the 13 days of Halloween, you will want to follow me on Instagram, or you can just check out my blog every day, the Charm Patterns blog. Vindicated. Live Journal is still a thing that young, hip people do. So, yeah. Any more questions? Oh, foundations revealed. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, and guys, if you like this project, please let me know, because I would love to do more corsetry projects. I was actually a little nervous for this one because I was worried that corset making might be a little too niche. So that's why I felt like I had to say there's a lot you can do with this, even if you're not going to, wear a corset tomorrow. I mean, but why not is my first question. But also, even if you're not going to wear a corset tomorrow or this month, watch the video, because there's so many skills in there that I combed Live Journal 12 years ago to learn and pass on to you. And these are skills that translate to other disciplines as well. So making a dress with structure, or, let's say you make a belt and you want to add boning to it, but you don't want to do the full corset thing. Just think of it as a skill building thing. So if you're on Patreon and you're in the merit badge tiers, the skill for this month is called hardware, which I was very excited about. It has a little mallet and I don't know, a nail or something. Anyway, it's it looks like a construction kind of thing. And that's what's fun about corset making, is there's so much cutting and banging, and you can really just pound things and get your aggression out. And I think a lot of times people think of sewing as a very delicate, womanly art. And it's different from manly, construction skills. But it's really all the same, especially when you're building something with a lot of structure like this. So if you enjoy building things, hitting things, this is the project for you. So yeah, I mean, like I said, just let me know if you want to see more corsetry, because I know a couple of you said you would love to see an overbust corset. I would love to do a corset with cups. I think that would be amazing. Yeah. Foundation garment designs. Thank you, Moxie. Moxie said, I watched the video already. It was awesome. I loved it. Yeah, it is exciting. And so that's why I just wanted, if you're feeling a little iffy on making a corset, I totally get it. But think of it as a way to advance your skills in a really exciting way. And if you ever want to make a costume, you want to do historical costuming, you're going to do a theater production, you need to know how to do corsetry. So give it a chance. Any chance for a Patreon Merry Widow? Oh my gosh, people ask me this all the time. And I don't think you guys understand how many pieces are in that Merry Widow, and also how many supplies. Okay, so I talk a lot about my favorite piece of foundation garment wear. My favorite piece for foundation garments is the What Katie Did Merry Widow. And it's a hip length bra with power mesh, and it has an elastic tape front. It's cups. It's a whole thing, hooks and eyes down the front. I'll make it less scary. The thing is, it's so many supplies. I know you guys already feel some of the projects I do, it can be challenging to source the supplies, as some of you were just saying. And like, if I did something like a Merry Widow, imagine that, but like times a billion. It's going to be so bad and you're going to hate me so much. And also the amount, so I couldn't just do it in the same charm patterns size chart that we have. Like if in a Merry Widow, you wouldn't wear like a dress size 6 with a C cup, right? You would need like a band size for your bra and then a cup. And then we would need more cup sizes. So I would never do it for Patreon. If I did it would have to be a charm pattern because it would be so much time and effort that I feel like it would have to be its own self-contained thing. But you're halfway there with Esther and the Waspy. Yeah. So yeah, bra making is, oh my God. Okay. So the people who asking me for a Merry Widow, have you ever made a bra? That's my other question, because bra making is so fiddly. You have to have all these different channeling things. You have to have like 8 different kinds of elastic. Like it's a whole thing. And that's just for the part that goes down to here. So I think a nice compromise could be a bustier style top with cups rather than a real bra, because I feel like asking for a pattern for a Merry Widow is like, that's a lot. And I feel like, I feel like it's one of those things that people ask for and that they would actually not like once we did it, and it would take us forever and we would hate our lives. So that's my worry. Can I just manufacture Merry Widows so you can buy them? Yeah, and it's very technical sewing. It's a lot. So, but yeah, maybe we can find, if what you guys are looking for is like more like a bustier top to wear under sheer things, like that's different, like that could maybe happen. So instead, a cupped corset. Compromise. Yeah, I could see doing a cupped corset. That's different to me. We'll see, guys. We'll see. I like your enthusiasm. I will say that. Let's see. I'm just catching up on questions here. Sarah said, any more charm pattern website releases this year? I can hardly keep up with the Patreon project, but my pattern stash always has room. So yeah, exciting news. We are doing 2 more charm patterns this year, and we're shooting them in like 3 weeks now, which is a little bit terrifying because we haven't actually started sewing anything, but it's going to happen. And they are fantastic. So 2 new charm patterns, and you guys are going to love them. So I can't tell you anything else, obviously, but you're going to love them. That's all I can tell you. So yeah, we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. We have a whole Patreon reimagining, rebranding coming up early next year. We have the new charm patterns. We're shooting November Patreon next week. We have 13 days of Halloween happening right now. Do I have any plans for Halloween this year? Well, that's the real irony, Sarah, is that I don't actually plan on going anywhere on Halloween, and I probably won't actually be dressed up on Halloween itself. But for me, part of the fun is like making Halloween garments for work and then dressing up here and doing videos and doing photography. It almost feels a little bit like Halloween exists on social media more these days than it does in like real life. So I love Halloween because it's like you get to go even more in with a fantasy with your sewing, right? And you guys know I'm all about that. So yeah, I remember, like a few years ago, I made this like Christmas dress that had it was like the Miss Yvonne inspired Christmas dress with like tinsel in the bust. And I remember people making fun of me online. Not that you would ever do that, but calling it stunt sewing. Have you guys heard this term? I've been thinking a lot about it lately because, the people who were saying this felt like stunt sewing was like a bad, like a negative thing to do. Like, I guess the idea is it's like a project you make like as a stunt because you just want to like achieve this one thing and show it off, which I'm like, that's exactly what sewing should be. Like that's why I love Halloween. It's because like you can really just dream like of the Haunted Mansion tightrope walker and stunt that you have achieved. And like, what's like, I don't understand why that's a bad way to spend your time. Right? Those people are joyless. Yeah, I'm still like trying to like figure out like it's been like 3 years since I read people saying this about me and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it means. But I guess it just means like you sew something just for the purpose of having sewn it and showing it off. What's like also, yeah, thank you, Nati. Like this is all Nati does too. So but that's like purely why I love to sew is because like you can have a vision, you can make it, you can like turn yourself into that vision, take photos, and then you can put your sweatpants on. Like it doesn't need to be something like I don't need to be sewing sweatpants for sewing to be worthwhile to me. You know what I mean? Like part of it is like realizing the fantasy. And that's why I always say my motto is feel the fantasy because like that's what it's all about for me. Even if it's just like even if it's not a Halloween project, if it's like a dress that I want to sew, it's about like realizing that fantasy. It's not about sewing something practical. Yeah, but that's, you know, people have different feelings. Stunt sewing is the ultimate. Everyone's I'm just reading your comments, everyone. Call me a stunt queen. It's art. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I mean, this is my like creative outlet and that's a beautiful thing. But also, you know, if you wanted to make more everyday clothes, like that's not a bad thing either. And you can bring a little fantasy into your everyday sewing too, which I love. But yeah, I'll never be one of those people who like makes, you know, my own like sweatpants or like I'm not like a practical sewer, you know, like if it's something practical I need, like I'll more tend to buy that, you know, because if I can't like build a fantasy around it, like I'm not gonna make it. Depression sewing. Oh my gosh. All right, everyone. Well, any more questions about this month's project or what's coming up? Tomorrow is like a really big day, I feel like. Don't you feel like that, Nati?
Absolutely, yes.
She says yes, she agrees. So tomorrow I feel like is one of the bigger projects of the Halloween extravaganza. So I just really want to hype you guys up about this because it was one of my it was a stunt. It was a sewing stunt. And it's a Halloween themed one, obviously. And also a lot of what we did for this project and for a lot of the projects this month, not necessarily the one I'm wearing it now, but for the Halloween sewing was that we did something that I don't normally do, which is we thought about quick and easy, right? So things that could be made, because we know Halloween sewing often happens at the last minute. You know, you're going to a party. And I mean, I can't wait to tell you more about what's coming out tomorrow, but I initially was imagining it as this like couture thing with this fabulous lining and beading and this whole thing. And then the more we talked about it here in the studio, we were able to like crystallize the vision into something that is super fast and easy to make and still has an amazing wow factor. So that was kind of the goal for me, is how to make it look amazing, because you guys know I wouldn't let you go out to a Halloween party looking like it was actually fast and easy to make. But how can you get the most bang for your buck when it comes to your sewing time for Halloween? Because let's face it, you're not going to wear this every day, right? And you want it to have a lot of impact, but you don't want it to be something that you're going to be working on for like 2 months. So very excited. Pet costumes for, oh my gosh. Oh, I got to show you guys. Hattie, I did get Hattie a little Halloween dress at PetSmart. It's like a little Halloween, it's like a pumpkin dress with ruffles on the bottom. It's a little jack-o'-lantern. It's so cute. You guys are too stressed out. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I think you guys are gonna like it. Did you actually sew from the tightrope? That is stunt sewing. Well, my biggest regret about the shoot was that I realized the day before that we should have had Hattie be the alligator, right? Like, what were we even thinking? And we did do like a mad Amazon Prime search to see if there were like Chihuahua size alligator costumes that would also be delivered the next day. And the answer was no. But next year we're trying to have more, foresight for these things, because that was a misstep on our end, Nati. Big screw up. I definitely should have done that. She did appear in another part of the shoot though, and I think you guys will not be disappointed. Abby, this is a fun question. What's your favorite and least favorite fabric or material you've ever sewn with? I can tell you my least favorite right off the bat. It is silk velvet. That stuff is the stuff of nightmares. There's nothing you can do to make it work with you. I mean, there may be some people who have like some sorcery when it comes to silk velvet. I am not one of them. It there's no amount of basting, pinning will keep the layers from going like this when you try to sew them. And then any little stitch you do shows on the right side. And there's just like, you'll try a million different things and none of them are working. And then you'll read Threads magazine and it tells you, oh, just baste a line of horsehair canvas along the bottom. And then you stitch your hem to that. You try that. That doesn't work because then you see 2 lines of stitching. I hate it. It's evil. No, I basted don't tell me basting, anyone. I won't hear you. I will not listen to it because I basted every single seam on this dress, and I even double and triple basted some seams and they still moved. My most favorite fabric. That's a tough one. I have a lot of fabrics that I go back to again and again. I would say we do a lot of Dupioni here. Melisha, what do you think my favorite fabric is? I love, we use that techno stretch, like wool stretch a lot. I love double wool crepe is another one of my very favorites. It's very beautiful. Yeah, I have a lot of favorites. I like fine apparel fabrics. I was thinking back to that wool flannel Wednesday Addams dress I made last year. That was one of my favorite fabrics to work with. It was just like so nice. Melisha said wool. Yeah, you're probably right. I love to sew wool. It is like wool coating, wool suiting, wool crepe. It just like presses so beautifully. I even like the smell of it when you press it. It's like you're tending sheep. I love wool. You're right, Melisha. All types of wool. Yeah, and it's so satisfying to press. It like works with you. It like does what you want it to do. So yummy. Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. Harris tweed. How have we not mentioned Harris tweed until this moment? That stuff is amazing. I know Melisha loves Harris tweed. What's my favorite hot weather fabric to make things from? Oh, that's a good question. Oh, probably Liberty of London. Everything I say is going to be expensive. I'm sorry in advance. I love, like a cotton lawn. Liberty of London, if you want to go for it, is an amazing summer fabric. It's cotton lawn, but the tonalon is what they call it. So it comes in beautiful prints. And also, I don't know how they weave this fabric, but it does not wrinkle. So I used to travel a lot, but I would have a wardrobe of dresses made out of Liberty, stuff them in a suitcase, get them out. They wouldn't even wrinkle. It was amazing. You could just wear them. Like, they're so easy to care for. Yeah, I think I would say Liberty. Oh, excuse me. Someone ladylike. Now you know why I like Australia and New Zealand so much. The sheep. I want to go to, where is that island where they make the Harris tweed outside of Scotland? That's where I really want to go. I know. I told you I have very expensive taste. I'm sorry. I was actually just thinking today, I was just telling Nati today that I think a fun video series to do would be like me sewing with budget fabrics to show myself and everyone else that you don't need to spend a lot of money on garment fabrics and create some beautiful things with less expensive fabrics. Shetland, thank you. Yeah. Oh, Missy's here. Hi, Missy. You guys would like to see that? Yeah, I think that could be really fun. I actually got that idea from James Mansfield, the wig styling. A lot of what she does is using budget wigs. So like she got a little girl's Moana wig from Target and then tried to style it into something really fabulous. And, she does amazing with everything she does. But I was thinking like, what would the sewing equivalent of that be? Probably finding like, tablecloth fabric or something like that and see if you could transform it into a beautiful dress. So I think that would be really fun. That's stunts. Yeah, that is stunt sewing. You're right. It is like, see if you like, I found this thing. Can I make it this thing? And then it's like, ooh, you're on the edge of your seat. All right, everyone. This has been really fun. But I should probably get going. 13 days of stunt sewing, the Joanne's version. But I just want to say thank you all for joining me here today. I also wanted to say that I hope you will keep up with what we're doing for the next 12 days of Halloween, the 13 days of Charm Halloween, the Extravaganza. Please look at my Instagram tomorrow because I cannot wait to show you what we're releasing tomorrow. And it's a freebie. So very exciting. All right. Thanks, everyone. And thank you so much for being here today and for your support of the Patreon projects and everything that we're doing. All right, everyone. I love you guys too. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.